On a cold and blustery evening, this is Cricbuzz Chatter, Adam Collins and Michael Vaughan on a day where England blew it again. All out for 325. They lost 6 for 47 today. They missed their second opportunity to drive Australia into the dirt. Australia batting pretty nicely, 2 for 130. Favourable bowling conditions that England weren't able to completely make the most of either. Vaughanie, you must be spewing.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, Australia in the first hour, magnificent. That first delivery to Ben Stokes this morning from Mitchell Starc was a crackerjack. You can't do anything about that. And then the guy that's got his hands are too big, Cameron Green. I want them reduced. It was an amazing catch, sharp in that kind of third slip area. And then it was down to the kamikaze once again. Harry Brook is a good player. And when Harry stays still, I didn't have any concern. He had to wear one, but that's fine. You're facing 90 miles an hour, quick bounces. You know, as a batter at test match level, it's okay to get hit. That's just the nature of the beast. And then he backs away to play this baseball bat style shot. The problem I have with that is that Harry Brook's too good to get out in that fashion. Yeah. He's too good a player. Now, I think he's just thinking all the time about boundaries. Now, I think in the history of Test match cricket, when you see a field set for the short stuff, which England have had for pretty much the majority of the second part of their innings, most really good players will go get down the other end. You know, get a one, just get off strike. There aren't that many boundaries options available, so don't go searching for the boundaries. You know, try and wear the bowlers down. But this England team are trying a method that's almost ripping up the way that cricket has been played before. Yes, it works in times where the ball's pitched up and the ball's not moving laterally, but when you see a tactic played against you that is so obvious, the skill is almost to throw away the ego. I always think at high level sport is, you know, it's pressurized, it's hard, it's you know, so many more people watching you, but you've got to park your egos. You know, I just think in terms of the way that England batted in that first innings, and they're not an egotistical bunch, they're a good set of lads, but they've just tried to play a method that just wasn't possible against that quality of bowling. And Harry's just got himself kind of locked into this boundary, rather than going, you know, I'll get down the other end and have a breather. And then you see Johnny Bairstow who's trying to get it going. You know, Johnny at 7 and then Tell starting at 8. He's always going to have to play more shots. Tries to hit one down the ground. And then obviously Travis there nicks a couple. It was like they're rubbing a bit of salt into the wound. Nathan Lyon's not on the bench. The part-time, he gets a couple. Yeah, just get a couple. Why not Travis? Yeah, England have had a really bad day. But I have to say, Australia throughout the whole day, and actually the whole test match, I reckon all the conditions have been in the favour of England. Bowling on the first day, batting on the second day, and then bowling again on the third day. The lights were on, the clouds were around. Australia just played with great attrition and skill.
We might go out of order today, go straight into the hot spot. Vaughanie, the reason I want to go into the hot spot is I suspect what we're going to talk about is going to go round and round about this particular topic. And I heard Jeetan Patel, this England spin coach on radio on your station just before, and he said, well, nobody criticised us when we played this way in New Zealand. No one criticised us last week when Root played a reverse scoop first ball. Harry Brook had to play that shot. That's the only place he was going to score. I mean, they're telling us white is black and black is white, aren't they? I mean, you've watched more Test cricket than most people will ever watch. I've watched a fair bit. So, I mean, there is more than one way of doing this, surely.
Well, first and foremost, you know, yes, people were praising the way England played, and rightly so. Last year, they played great. In New Zealand, the first test in particular, fantastic. They lost the second test. You know, they lost, so they only drew that series. But the Ashes is different. You know, you basically, and whether it's right or wrong, basically in England cricket, Australian cricket, the series before the Ashes are kind of build up to the Ashes. Yeah. And then it's about appearing in an Ashes and getting it right throughout that series. And so far, the first test at Edgbaston, England lost. Yes, they played some good cricket, it was entertaining, but they lost. Yeah. And here at Lords, they got back into the contest on day 2. There were 188 for 1. The best offsman in the world's off the field. So the Australians are down to 10 men. And then a obvious tactic is created. And England are just falling straight into the trap. And then again on day 2, Harry Brook is too good a player. That's all I'll say to Harry Brook in England. Don't allow one of your really good players whose record in Test match cricket inside a few Test matches is fantastic. Don't allow him to get out in such a cheap way. He doesn't need to be playing that shot. Ride a few, get under a few bounces. Yeah. When Cameron Green came on, Josh Hazlewood made the change. It just looked that little bit easier than Cummins and Starc. In Test match cricket, you are allowed to see off a bowler. Yeah. You're allowed to say, you know, Starkey, you're bowling 90 miles an hour bounces. You can only do it for 4 or 5 overs. So what we got 30 balls. You're allowed to say for 30 balls, Bush, get 1 or 2, wear a couple, and then just see off a bowler. I just don't like this one way of playing. I've never seen a sports team just play one way and be successful.
How would you address the batting group? What would be your advice if you had 10 minutes with these guys to say, sharpen up, guys.
I just think, look, when you get the chance to be expansive and aggressive, go for it. Really commit to it. But when you see a tactic that is so obviously against you, and you're up against 90 miles an hour bounces, just be smart enough to realise that they can't do that forever.
Yeah. And
they might have to go back to pitching it, and then you go again. In Test match cricket, you can't just be in fifth gear all the time. The way that Australia have played, if you just look, and yes, they're trying to play a different brand of cricket, you could actually say they're playing Test match cricket the right way. It's been a success for many, many teams over many generations, that you play attritionally, you play with great concentration. When the ball's seaming and swinging around, you leave it, play for your off stump, wait for that ball under your nose or off your pad. It's just the way Test match cricket's played. But England are playing this style that's got us all very excited. And it's not just England fans, that the whole world have been really looking forward to seeing England play Test match cricket. But ultimately, they're making mistakes. When you start making mistakes, they made mistakes in the second innings, in particular at Edgbaston. They should have got a lot more than they did. And they've made mistakes in the first innings here. They've now got 2 days to try and fight. They'll say that they can chase whatever. They'll say they can chase 350, 400. The proof is always in the pudding. And all the comments that you hear outside the England camp, from after the first test to throughout this test match. Ben Duckett last night was very kind of punchy as well. Jeetan Patel tonight. Yeah. I love a bit of drama, and it adds to more drama because we're talking about it, so it's great. But ultimately, it comes down to, at the end of the week, did you win or did you lose? At the minute they lost the first game, and they're looking like losing the second game unless they come out and play better in the second innings. Yeah,
221 runs, they're already behind, and Khawaja's now faced more than 750 deliveries in the series. He's on 58 not out. He'll be 158 not out if he keeps going the way that he is. Big job for England tomorrow. We'll come back to their bowlers in a sec, but the big news point this morning really was that Nathan Lyon's probably out of the series. We got no news out of CA this morning. We got told we'd learn more at the ground. We didn't need that news. He hobbled in on crutches, which tells the full story. So 10 more wickets for Australia will be challenging, but we know what the plan's going to be. Try and get something with the new ball, then just bomb them. And if England maintain the same disposition as they did yesterday, they'll be hooker happy again like the Windies were in Australia back in 75, 76.
I am intrigued to see how the Bazball method goes. If England are set a target, so say they're asked to get 460, 480, and it's near on impossible. You can't get it. Have England, have they? Because remember from the start, Ben and Baz have basically said they're always going for a victory. No draws. What? I mean, their mind will explode. I mean, what are they going to do?
What if they've got 1 day to do it? What if they're going to go and make better part of 500 in a day?
I have no idea how they're
going to duty down to go up.
I will make a very serious point as well that I feel sorry for the England bowlers because you're looking at yesterday afternoon, Stuart Broad, Jimmy Anderson, all around probably were on their third cup of tea at 188 for one thing, and at worst. Probably late tomorrow, we'll be having to roll out there again. They probably looked at the forecast and thought, the clouds are coming in tomorrow afternoon. We'll get parity, maybe a lead, and all of a sudden it starts swinging about. We're going to win this test match. That was the plan yesterday, but because of the expansive nature of the way that England have batted, it allows Australia back in. And I'll mention another player, David Warner. Yes. David Warner is an aggressor. So David Warner, when he's in his stance, he's basically saying, boundaries, I want to get off to a flyer. England bowled so well at him that he couldn't get off to the fly. So guess what he tried to do? Just hang in. And I just wonder if there was a few of the England players just watching Warner going, he probably wants to be a Baz bowler, but today wasn't the day to Baz bowl because there was a little bit of movement there and his team needed him to hang in there and get them off to a good start. So he had to just adapt slightly. Test match cricket is about adapting to the situation and playing the game for your team. And you can't tell me that some of those England batters are delighted with the method that they took for the team. And ultimately, it's always about what do the team require at that certain situation. And I just felt 2, 3, 4 of them just chose the wrong option at that moment.
It's a great point about Warner and Khawaja putting on 63. If England were any chance of going through Australia today, they needed to go bang, bang early on. There was never any real meaningful chance of that. Right, before we go, let's press fast forward. Hitting fast forward, you've touched on this point already about the poor old England quicks. Anderson's 40, Broad's 37 as of last week, bowling on 3 consecutive days. Anderson had Bairstow up to the stumps today. I felt for him. I don't think Anderson would have played any test match at Lord's ever where a keeper has had to come up to the stumps to him. And partly that's because Labuschagne was batting so far out of his crease. But nevertheless, it's tough graft for these guys. And they've got to take 8 more wickets before the chase is even a viable thing.
Yeah, they've got a bowl again on day 4 with C. Smith strolling out. The sun's going to shine, so it'll be a better day for batting. No, realistically, they need 5 wickets in the first hour or so. Something's got to happen. They're going to have to take every opportunity. And then when they get the bat in hand, it's not going to be easy. I mean, you're looking at an Aussie team. And what I really like about really good teams is they just seize the moment. Australia arrived on day 3 and they knew the first hour they had to produce magic. And I don't know what Pat Cummins had said. I don't know whether it was the clouds or something that happened to the serve. All of a sudden, the ball was bouncing. It was going through quickly. Australia, for many, many generations, have always known how to win that moment. They won the moments at Edgbaston.
Yep.
When it really mattered at Edgbaston, Australia knew how to win that certain moment. And so far in this test match, once again, they didn't have a great second day, but they came through it. And then on day 3, switched on and they won that first hour, and it just completely ripped open the whole game of cricket. The Aussies are clear favourites to go 2-0 up, but the Bazballers will come out Bazballing. Whether it's going to be the right approach, I think that's going to be debatable.
All right, Vaughanie, it's a horrible, horrible evening out here. Let's get inside into the warm. Until then, Cricbuzz Chatter. We'll chat to you tomorrow.